Okay, we'll continue.
System that exists, unlike Gaza's, which is mostly try not to be where the bombs are landing. And it's important to note here, the vast majority of the Palestinians in Gaza are not part of Hamas.
Okay, so what? Nothing he says matters. The vast majority of Germans were not...
So they don't deserve to be wiped off the earth. They don't deserve to be bombed. They're not representational of Hamas. Hamas is really bad and fucked up. And fuck Hamas. But the average Palestinian is not a member of it. That's why what you're doing isn't justified. It's ethnic cleansing.
Dennis Prager, this is the Fireside Chat with Otto. How well known is Otto? You ask? Probably not asking, but I'll ask. Anyway, first of all, is he up? What's the story here? Is he awake? No. Okay. Really adorable to watch. So I was in Hawaii over the weekend giving some lectures. It was very moving to talk to so many and spend hours posing for pictures with people of every background. It was encouraging to me. Hawaii is not one of the more libertarian states, shall we put it. Anyway, the number of people who commented on Otto in Hawaii, even on the street.
Wait, did you go to Hawaii because you were flown out there by some like right-wing think tank and you thought you were part of like a multicultural experience? was he like, oh, you know, it was just great to be around all of these native Hawaiians, you know, they taught me many a thing. They have a local specialty there. Apparently it's called a pina colada. Yeah, and very, very happy to have tried this foreign exotic drink. Quite the experience, but I feel well-traveled now.
Was quite remarkable, to say the least. Let me go to the Middle East, and then I'm going to comment on what would we call him, a late-night show? The guy who does a late-night show, John Oliver, has talked about the Middle East, and I'm simply going to use his monologue on the Middle East by way of answering a lot of the attacks on Israel. But I will just say at the outset, it is a bit depressing, and it always has been in my life, the inability of so many people in the world to recognize evil. To not understand that Hamas embodies evil is to truly have what we call a broken moral compass. And it's not new. A lot of people did not understand the evil that the Nazis presented. Most people did not understand the evil that the communists represented. Even to today, people will frequently take umbrage at calling communism evil. The fact that it killed 100 million people, civilians, not wartime deaths, civilians, means nothing. As Stalin said, one death is a tragedy, a million is a statistic. He should know he killed 20 to 40 million of his own people. I have long...
I mean... Do you want to put forth that a lot of them died in World War II? I mean, you could say that he might have had a slight callous view of human life and that so many Russians died in that war. That's a far cry from the big black book of communism surfacing again, you know, once again, just filling this little hole right here. Filling that mouthpiece with facts and logic.
Long ago, this was the first big moral realization of my life, I think either high school or college, when I said it is wrong to call evil dark. Evil is actually very bright. You
Weird. always weird.
can look into the dark, but you cannot look into very bright light. People do not stare at evil. They recoil from acknowledging it. In the struggle between Hamas...
Sure. I mean, America's pretty evil, after all. I'd say the indiscriminate slaughter of indigenous people in that country. Millions upon millions. Something that you don't really ever bring up. Or slavery. Slavery was pretty extreme, you know. I guess, yeah, we weren't staring into that bright light, so to speak. Or whatever weird-ass metaphor you got to tell yourself.
And Israel, to not understand that we're talking about darkness and light with all the flaws that Israel, as any country would have, it is light compared to the darkness of Hamas. To not understand that, this totalitarian, theocratic dictatorship tortures its own opponents.
What do you think is going on right now? Israel's bombing Palestinians off the face of the earth, and you're just sitting there. It's like they are just white light emanating, from God's grace onto the land, purifying all of them, expunging them from the surface of the earth.
Its own Palestinian opponents are tortured to death regularly. There are no freedoms in Gaza. Hamas took over Gaza when Israel left.
Why do you think that is? Why what do you think is going on there? Who do you think is sponsoring them? Who do you like?
Israel occupied Gaza, and the whole world said, leave, and then you will see how things will work out. And they did see how things will work out. Horrible human beings sending thousands of rockets to kill as many Israelis as possible followed the Israel leaving of Gaza. So imagine if Israel left the West Bank. What would happen? You just have another Hamas-run place to try to destroy Israel. One final point. This is not a normal war. This is not a normal antipathy. The opponents of Israel do not want to defeat Israel. They want to destroy Israel. That's a big difference. There are 22 Arab states, but there's no room for one Jewish one the size of New Jersey. There are 50-something Muslim countries, but there's no room in the world for one tiny Jewish country the size of New Jersey. Just think about that for a moment. Okay? Now let's go to John Oliver.
Wait, what? That's just where we got to leave it? Why do you keep saying it's the size of Jersey? What does that have to do with anything? Well, based on the geography, the physical size, they just there's no place for them.
It was on HBO. I was not familiar with him until Megan brought this to my attention.
What?
And I'm glad that she did.
Lies.
And my column this week is he is a living embodiment of it. The title of my column this week, it's easily found on my website, Town Hall, Daily Wire, American Greatness, and many other sites. And Real Clear Politics picked it up, which is not a conservative site.
Literally soaked in kombucha right now. Fucking great. I didn't even shake this up, by the way. Oh my God. There is so much. It's everywhere. There's kombucha everywhere. I'm swimming in kombucha right now. Is this the hot tub meta?
They take what they think are the most important left and right articles. Anyway, it's certainly all over the internet, and it's titled, if I can remember it correctly, Men Give Birth, America was founded in 1619, and Israel is the aggressor. That is what the left's upside-down world would have you believe, those three things. And isn't it
so happy someone gave him an article and said all that.
amazing that all those who say men give birth, virtually anyone who does, also thinks Israel is wrong? It so follows a pattern, isn't it? Fascinating. And Israel is the aggressor is as true as men give birth.
So I'm assuming this is trans men, and that's why this is such an issue, I assume.
By the way, the left would agree. That's the irony. It's one of the few things we'd all agree on. All right, let's take a look at John Oliver here. And
oh wow, okay, yeah, as usual, just so very, very weird, so very, very weird.
I will interrupt to make some comments.
The citizens of Gaza don't have an Iron Dome to protect them the way that the citizens of Israel do. It's one of the many ways they're at a significant disadvantage. Although,
all right, wait. Therefore, what? Notice there is no question about already we have literally demoralized the whole situation. The citizens of Gaza don't have an Iron Dome to protect them. To protect them against what? Is Israel shooting rockets all over Gaza like Hamas is doing to?
Wow, so indefensibly evil and cruel. Like, just to be like, so what? So, like, we will wipe them off the face of the earth. And so what?
Israel thousands? Did Israel start the war or did Hamas start the war? You know what? Hitler's Germany didn't have nearly the same defenses to defend Germany as Britain had to defend Britain by the end of World War II. Does that make Hitler a victim? Does that make the Nazis victims? Would he prefer that Israel not have an Iron Dome?
Okay, well, first off, who was the aggressor in even the most recent conflict? It was Israel, right? It was forcibly evicting people from their homes. This is wild. I didn't think this was going to be the defense. just like, so what? They should have every possible protection and the other side should have nothing. They should starve in the streets as they do. And so what? They are basically the Nazis.
And then what? So, in other words, this is part of the left-wing demoralization of morality, that the weak are necessarily in the right.
The demoralization of reality. Wouldn't it be the moralizing of reality?
It's truly pathologic.
And Israeli military...
Wow. Again, he doesn't like really go beyond like, I'm just going to say something like flagrant and strange and put it out there. And everyone has to just be like, okay. All right.
Spokesperson tried to push back on the idea that there's really much of a discrepancy there.
Somebody on Twitter said that the Palestinians don't have an Iron Dome. I say yes, they have an Iron Dome. It's called Don't Fire Rockets at Israeli Civilians, and we won't fire anything at Gaza.
That was brilliant. That's exactly right. Their Iron Dome is don't kill us. That's exactly right. The spokesman, and he's going to make fun of it, I assume, otherwise he wouldn't have put it up. That spokesman for Israel was so real. The left loathes the real. It's like it's a dissection of reality.
So you kick people out of their homes, you forcibly evict them, and you also like basically do the most horrifying things possible to them while that's happening. And then when they attack back, you're like, stop hitting yourself. Basically, like this is, it's old school bullying, except it's with much more advanced weaponry, and much more powerful weaponry.
Yes, they have an Iron Dome. Don't try to slaughter us. Make peace with us. That's their Iron Dome. Then everything is possible. Here's a question, the only question one has to reflect on. If Israel dropped its arms completely, it just demilitarized, no more army, no more navy, no more air force, no more use of arms, what would happen the next day? And if the Palestinians, no more fighting, no more terror, no more rockets, no more arms, what would happen the next day in that case? Well, we know if Israel did it, the next day there would be genocide of the Jewish people of Israel. Whereas if the Palestinians demilitarized, there would be peace the next day in the Middle East. That's what everyone who dares.
So lay down all your arms and basically let us do what we're already doing, but worse. I mean, that's kind of already happening. You're kind of performing an ethnic cleansing in real time. You're already cleansing, and you're cleansing in the current situation. I can't imagine what would happen if they were 100% defenseless on top of that.
Look at reality knows. Israel has no interest in war. Whenever there has been a war in the last 100 years, it has always been between two police states or between a police state and a free state. Never between two free states. They don't fight each other. And whenever there is a...
So you're admitting it's a police state?
Free state, police state battle, the police state started the battle. Whether it was Pearl Harbor or the Nazi invasion of Poland or what is happening now with Hamas.
Yeah, but there are a couple of differences. Iron Dome, for one, sounds much cooler. And also, it has the significant advantage...
Wait, what does that even mean? Iron Dome sounds cooler than what? He talks well.
I love that he's so offended by a joke. Oh, wait. Pause. What does that even mean? And so what if it sounds cool?
And fast, but he doesn't say anything meaningful. Okay, we'll continue.
System that exists, unlike Gaza's, which is mostly try not to be where the bombs are landing. And it's important to note here, the vast majority of the Palestinians in Gaza are not part of Hamas.
Okay, so what? Nothing he says matters. The vast majority of Germans were not...
So they don't deserve to be wiped off the earth. They don't deserve to be bombed. They're not representational of Hamas. Hamas is really bad and fucked up. And fuck Hamas. But the average Palestinian is not a member of it. That's why what you're doing isn't justified. It's ethnic cleansing.
Not Nazis. The vast majority of Russians were not communists. So what? It's a meaningless point. Anyway, how does he know what the vast majority of people in Gaza, they didn't vote for Hamas? I don't know. Maybe they didn't. I'm sure the elections are rigged. But maybe they did. How does he know? But the fact that they're not members of Hamas, to the extent that that is true, so what? It's true for every police state.
They don't get together and all decide to launch rockets. It's not.
Wow. I mean, we always say mask off all the time, but like it's just not on with Dennis Prager is the thing. I mean, you got to give him credit for there. Like that fact alone. He says the quiet part loud all the time. Well, he says it loud and he says it weird. Like he's very weird. He's just a very unusual human.
Not a co-op board, but when Israel fires rockets...
Right, it's not a co-op board. Right. So the average Palestinian is opposed to what Hamas is doing? Does he know? I don't know. Maybe they are. But how does he know? Would he willingly make a bet if there was an actual...
And so what if they are? So what?
Free election? Do you think that Hamas should try to destroy Israel or not? What the vote would be? I don't know what the vote would be. How does he know?
When Israel fires rockets at Gaza, it endangers all Palestinians there.
I love watching you dismantle Dennis. Well, I'm not gonna lie. This is the lowest hanging fruit. Like Dennis Prager is not like, you know, an intellectual titan to be overcome. There's like, for all my ripping into Sam Harris, for example, if he was to be discussing something related to neurology, I would be so woefully out of my depth. I wouldn't even try. I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, actually, when it comes to the synapses and how they connected, like, no, I'm just, no, Lance, well out of my category. But with Dennis Prager, it's just going to be, you know, creepy old egg yells profanities and N-words. Like, can you debunk that in real time? Yeah, it's not too hard.
Maybe somebody on Twitter could point that out to that guy.
Point what out to that guy? Point what out? I'm dissecting it almost sentence by sentence. I still don't point what out. What the guy said is correct. Their Iron Dome is peace. He didn't respond at all to what the IDF, the Israel Defense...
Their Iron Dome is peace, their Iron Dome is defense. I mean, it's peace for Israelis. It gives them peace and quiet. They don't have to worry about bombs landing down upon them. So there's that.
Four spokesmen said.
To people in Gaza, it can seem like the only time anyone pays attention to what's happening there is when Hamas is firing rockets, which is understandably very frustrating because they've been living under a suffocating blockade.
You know why they're living under a suffocating blockade? Because they want to bring in missiles from Iran to destroy Israel. That's why there's a blockade. If there were no blockade, what do you think would come into Gaza? Girl Scout cookies? Checker games? What do you think would come in?
Checker games. I'll go with checker games.
Everything he has said is nonsense. But here's the deal. Let's debate. John Oliver, I publicly invite you. I am always polite in debates. I will give $1,000 to your favorite medical charity. Debate anywhere in the country, providing it is both televised on your show and it is broadcast on my show. How is that?
Yes, please. Oh man, I think that'll happen as soon as he catches wind of that. Oh, I want to post this on the Twitter immediately, and I'd like to offer my services if either of you individuals need a moderator in any way, shape, or form. I'm here. You know, Dennis, don't look up my prior work. It's doesn't speak to my neutrality. I'll say that. All right. If you happen to be Googling anything I've said in relation to it, does not speak to my neutrality. I can be neutral. I will not call you a racist egg. I will not call you the N-word egg. I will not say those words. You N-word egg.
Is that a good deal? You think he'll accept, ladies and gentlemen? The left never debates. So I predict.
Where does that come from? Like, Steven Crowder has been running from Sam Cedar for like, what, 4 years now, I want to say. Jordan Peterson has rejected every debate he's had with the exception of Zizek, because Zizek was Damanis. But he was supposed to debate Richard Rolfe, fully backed out of that one. He recently posted he posted a tweet about Ben Burgess, saying like, oh, Ben Burgess is like the savior of the left or something, the best of the left. And Ben Burgess is like, well, you didn't read my book, and I challenge you to a debate. Silence. Radio silence. You know, how about Tim Pool being like, well, I'll only debate people who can physically come into my compound. All right, and if they're willing to show up and mail a bomb from my backyard, then yeah, okay, they can come debate.
A no. I predict no answer. But for those of you who are curious, gee, who's right? Here's a chance. Let's have a debate. They can have any moderator they want.
And in Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories, Palestinians are essentially being governed by a form of apartheid.
Apartheid? What does it mean, a form of apartheid? Do Arab Israelis not have the same rights as Jewish Israelis? If he's saying that, he's lying. That's a big charge to say someone is lying. Not mistaken, it's a lie.
No, it's 100% the truth. They don't have the same voting rights depending on where they are. They're second-class citizens. It's 100% an apartheid state. Like, that's not even up for debate.
For the West Bank, that's true. It is governed, that is correct. It is governed by Israel because when Jordan owned it in 1967, it tried to destroy Israel and Israel didn't let itself be destroyed. So it took over the West Bank and was very happy to return the West Bank. But the Arabs said in 1967, they went to Khartoum and they announced no negotiations, no peace, no recognition. What was Israel supposed to do?
An assessment echoed by both international and Israeli human rights groups.
Oh, human rights groups. Oh. They have a record of tremendous moral acuity.
Life in Gaza is hard even when they are not being bombed. And the US government has...
that shuts that one down. Wrecked, bodied. Is that how the debate's going to go? He's like, yeah, well, I like to bring up the fact that both the UN Convention on Human Rights as well as Amnesty International have condemned the action of Israel and said that they are in violation of international law. And he's like, oh, yeah, I don't have a bad track record or anything. Oh, that's it? That's oh, you're done. And okay. All right. Well, I expected some kind of voracious pushback there, but yeah, yeah, let's just go on.
Implicitly co-signed on the brutally hard line Israel's been taking.
Okay, the US is co-signed. When the US supported Israel for the 4 years of Donald Trump, this didn't happen. I'm not saying it is definitely a result of the election of the Democrats in the United States, but
I'm implicitly applying it.
It's hard to believe it is not related that within a few months of Joe Biden becoming president, the wars began again. While Donald Trump was president, the fact is Arab state after Arab state actually recognized Israel. It was a remarkable thing from Morocco to Dubai. It was quite remarkable, even Sudan. Now we have war. You know why? Weakness invites war. Strength invites peace. That's real life. Is it nice? The question isn't, is it nice? The question is
I don't know, but I think every measure and definition by what you would like, Benjamin Netanyahu is exuding military strength. I mean, he's just basically leveling the entire fucking city.
True.
This guy basically gave Israel a green light to do anything it wanted for the last 4 years, and while Biden has had the opportunity to reset that relationship, his administration's response this week has been...
The whole, like, might is right thing is really fucked up when you start thinking about it from a historical lens, especially, like, well, at one point, were the Nazis right? They were fucking blitzkrieging their way through Europe. They were fucking demolishing other countries. They're just devastating them. Does that make them correct in that battle?
Deeply underwhelming, giving a generic statement that Israel has a right to defend itself.
Why is that underwhelming? What is Israel supposed to do? He never once, no one on the left who loathes Israel has been able to offer an alternative to what Israel is doing.
Ending the apartheid state, reparations, and then allowing Palestinians to exist in peace.
Would you like Israel to do? The attempt to obliterate, to murder, to slaughter, to burn as many Jews as possible in Israel is being taken. The Iron Dome is stopping most of it. What would you like Israel to do? They never say, what should Israel do? This is disproportionate. What's a proportionate response? If only 10 Israeli dies, do they make sure that only 10 Palestinians die? What should Israel do? What would America do? What would any country do if there was an enemy that tried to obliterate its population?
Exact same line that Obama said and that Bush said before him. Israel has a right to defend itself is just something all presidents end up saying out loud at some point in office, like my fellow Americans, or what do you mean?
Right, so it's meaningless. Israel has a right to defend itself is a meaningless phrase to this moral giant.
It's not that Israel doesn't have the right to defend itself. It's just that line cannot be used to excuse absolutely everything.
Okay, what is inexcusable?
Multiple children have...
Yeah, the kids getting murdered, the hospitals being bombed, the Associated Press being bombed, Al Jazeera being bombed, fucking blood banks being bombed, children being bombed, kids, lots of dead kids, over 50 dead kids, all inexcusable. Biological warfare, chemical warfare, white phosphorus, burning human beings alive, slowly incinerating their organs, burning through buildings. Take your pick. You know, there's a fucking buffet of horrors and atrocities and war crimes here.
Have been killed this
Yes, children are killed. That's correct. How could Israel avoid killing children when...
Holy shit, he's actually so wetting this. Nothing is beyond the pale. So what? So what? Every single one of them deserves it.
They are in the same building with Hamas people. What is Israel to do? The Israeli army is known as the most meticulous in avoiding killing civilians in the world. Watch the video. It was tweeted out by Israel's...
Oh my God. Yeah, watch your 5-minute factless video. Yeah, and it was retweeted. Oh, he found out about it. I knew it. I knew it. Yeah, I'd like to appeal to authority. The authority is myself and a PragerU video that I produced. So yeah, go there. You'll love the charts and or graphs. Yeah, there's a number of them. Yep. It talks about how we're the most moral army that's ever existed. Ever. More white phosphorus, please.
Prime Minister, the Prager University video. Take a look at it. The PragerU video on Israel is the most moral army in the world. It is given by a British colonel, the commander of British forces in Afghanistan, who's fought all over the world.
Well, there's a moral arbiter. There's if ever there was. Come on. Checkmate, everybody. Okay. Did you hear that? Did you hear who's deciding this for us? Cool.
And this man, a colonel in the British army, said that the most moral army in the world is Israel's.
Well, checkmate.
But children die. You know how many children died when the Allies bombed Nazi Germany? If he were alive then, he would have spoken about how evil America and Britain were for bombing Germany. Yes, we'll just allow the Holocaust to go on a little longer, but we won't bomb Germany.
8 in a single strike just yesterday, and the US is heavily implicated here. Not just by serving as Israel's diplomatic shield at the UN, but by constantly refusing to criticize the indefensible.
What was indefensible? That's what I'd like to know, that children die? How do you retaliate with no children dying when Hamas uses children as shields? That is their tactic.
I didn't think you meant that literally. You literally think they hold up like kids as shields, and do they hold up kids as swords as well? And they're like coming at you, like what the fuck? Like how are you defending child murder? This is child slaughter, by the way. It's like it's not 1 or 2. All right, there's a lot of fucking dead kids.
Is their tactic? What is Israel supposed to do? He doesn't even mention that.
Not kill kids. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I could ask, but I'm guessing it's not kill kids anymore.
You know, the Israelis killed 13 people just now.
Pretty simple question.
You know, including maybe 5 or 6 children. Do you condemn that? Do you condemn the killing of children?
Okay, do you condemn the killing of children? The deliberate killing of children is evil. The non-deliberate killing of children in a war is a tragedy. It's a demagogic question. Do you condemn the killing of children? Does this man think, a U.S. spokesman thinks it's okay to kill children?
The answer is yes. This one's not hard. It's not a gotcha. Well, that's a trick question, is it not? I mean, what kind of kids? Were they used as human shields? Were they held up? You know, I have met an evil child or two in my time. Okay. Did they have a scary name? Were they a member of MS-13?
The demagoguery of this is you can choke on it. Is Israel targeting children? Or is Hamas placing children in a place so they could die? Hamas, I truly believe, Hamas doesn't give a damn about the children of Gaza.
You actually live in this world where you think they're just like, this building is going to be bombed, loaded with kids, fill that building with kids, because that way it'll look really good. It'll look really good internationally. So let's just slaughter more kids. That's what we're going to do. Oh yeah, this area is going to be attacked. Well, let's fill it with children. Yeah. Oh no, that's the Hamas way. We all know this.
They use them so that they can have John Olivers of the world attack Israel, the greatest ally.
I was fucking memeing. What the fuck, Dennis? I was memeing. 2 seconds later, you say out the thing I was just making fun of. I can't even do bits with Dennis Prager because he just says the thing that I'm mocking out loud like 2 seconds later.
Ally of Hamas is the world media, including John Oliver. If anybody is enabling these things to happen, it is the world's left. If they knew that the world media was not pro-Hamas, was not anti-Israel as much as it is, they would not embark on these things.
Oh yeah, nothing more anti-Israel than the media. Definitely not consistently pushing a narrative that Israel has every right to defend itself. Not like, even what you consider the liberal media, like the New York Times, are pushing fucking propaganda pieces 24/7, talking about how Hamas has fired so many rockets, and then not talking about the casualty count on the other end. Yeah, no, definitely. There's a huge bias against Israel in the media. Always has been.
They don't gain anything militarily. What they want to do is give Israel as terrible a name as possible. And the John Olivers of the world are the useful idiots, as they used to call the people who somehow saw moral equivalence between America and the Soviet Union. God must love these people. He's made a lot of them.
I'm asking, do you condemn the
Oh, so that's the end of his thing? All right, we can get there.
killing of Palestinian children?
Obviously, and these reports are just emerging, and I understand, I was just speaking to the team, I understand we don't have independent confirmation of facts on the ground yet, so I'm very hesitant to get into reports that are just emerging.
All he needed to say was, I condemn the use of children as human shields. Okay, that's the reality. And then say, do you, sir? How about throwing it back at this pompous guy with the mask on? Do you condemn the use of children as human shields? Okay.
I know how this looks, but trust me, it is complicated. Look, there is a real tendency, particularly in America, to...
No, he didn't stop there. I thought for sure he was going to be like, yeah, there was separate drinking fountains. And so what? So what? There was 2 dining experiences. I got my food a lot quicker when I didn't have to wait for a black person to be served. So what? Life was better when I got to ride in the front of the bus every time, okay? There was a separate movie theater that I got to be in. So what?
to both sides of this situation, and I'm not saying that there aren't some areas where that's warranted, but it's important to recognize there are also areas where it's simply not.
It is not an issue of both sides are equally right or equally wrong. We both agree with that. He thinks Israel is the villain. I think Hamas is the villain. Nothing like moral clarity or clarity in general. You know my motto, clarity over agreement. This one is perfect. We have clarity and agreement. We both think one side is wrong. He thinks it's the Israeli.
No, you're strawmanning him. I think he thinks that just human beings have a right to exist on this planet and not be ethnically cleansed. I'm going to guess that's where John Oliver stands on this one.
Democracy. I think it's the Hamas totalitarians. The people who started the war are wrong.
Both sides are firing rockets, but one side has one of the most advanced militaries in the world. Both sides are suffering heartbreaking casualties, but one side is suffering them exponentially.
That's right, they are. Because they started. Germans suffered exponentially. Far more civilian losses in Germany than in Britain, let alone in America, where there were virtually none. This is how the left calculates right and wrong. How many died? Because their moral compass is just broken.
And it's not like the US is operating from the moral high ground here. It's obviously no stranger to drone striking.
I don't think everyone ever talk about that kind of a conflict in terms of like how it was justified that German children were murdered. Like that's a weird angle. Again, Dennis Prager is always so strange. But just to be like, would you ever say that it wasn't okay to slaughter a whole bunch of children in Nazi Germany? Would you not think that? I'm like, well, I don't think I've ever heard anyone propose it this way. This is really bizarre.
Weddings and saying, we were just trying to target enemy combatants. This country has blood on its hands too. And look, if you believe Israel's actions are warranted and proportionate this week, you're welcome to try and make that argument. But we have got to start having this conversation honestly. Let's
have a debate. You're prominent, I'm prominent. I have a larger audience than you, but you have a large audience, but I'm
Fucking Dennis Prager. Oh man, he needs some ego death. I gotta say, you and Otto, you gotta do some shrooms, my guy. What is going on? Humble thyself, be humble. You listen to that track yet? What's going on? You have an audience, I have an audience. I'm much larger than you on the internet, of course. I believe I was just made aware of your presence very recently.
Willing to expose you to my millions of listeners and to all those who watch these PragerU videos.
You can have the PragerU platform. Imagine that. All the people that we've been indoctrinating for years to be white nationalists and white supremacists, they could be yours, John. You can have them all.
So I'm going to give you a much larger audience than you'll give me, and yet I'm willing to do it because you invited honest dialogue. Okay, Enough of that. Oh, time for our question. Do we have time?
Sure, let's do a video.
Wow, it's kind of sad that Dennis Prager is just a React Andy now. Anyways, yeah, you heard it here first, everybody. Dennis Prager versus John Oliver. Hopefully, Jaboy will be able to moderate it. Probably unlikely, not very possible. But anyways, I'll still do the whole like over that. That would be a ton of fun. Oh man, I think that would just be an utter like amazing shit show because of how embarrassing it would be for Dennis Prager, especially with like, I love the confidence. I love that he's going in there and he's probably not going to do a single thing to prepare. But yeah, fucking Dennis Prager would get so wrecked. But he would think he was doing fine. He would just like, yeah, they do. And so what? So what? You need a Nick Lesko style song. Let me moderate Prager and John Oliver. I gotta fit Dennis Prager and John Oliver. Let me moderate. Na, na, na. Yeah, something like that.
Great.
Yeah. Oh well, he likes it. So we got that one.
Hey, do you like movies? Do you like Serfs? Do you want movies and Serfs watching the movies? So then come over to the new channels. It's the Serfs the cinema. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Can you do the thing, you know, that thumbs up and comment and all those things that help us out in the algorithm that controls every aspect of our lives? Also, if you happen to have a Facebook account, can you delete it? Like just delete it. You should probably delete your Facebook account because it's not a great company. But hey, if you can't do that for whatever reason, I understand. And could you also go to facebook.com/thesurftimes then and give us a little like and a follow. We're just trying to push back against the fact that people like Ben Shapiro happen to dominate the platform entirely. And when everyone asks why do older generations believe the things they believe, one of the problems is the majority of them on social media use Facebook. So to counter that, we're just going to be on there too now. Also, if you happen to have a union or a worker co-op or even a leftist project, podcast, website, Zoom, MySpace, it doesn't matter. We will advertise it for free on this channel. All you got to do is go to weareserfs.com and use the forms that we got there, weareserfs.com. Thanks, everybody.
To our God, Xander Corvus, we shall build ornate temples in your honor. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, and the Tim Caucus, we aim to be the best court jesters your money can buy. To our lords, Evan Nudie, Trevor R., Alexander Thaler, Ryan Lubin, Tofox, Jeff Lamb, Sint Forzi, we are your humble vassals, ready to till your land. To our Knights of the Round Table, Omni, Mr. Anderson, Riley and Anna, Ryan Craig, Multimondi, Trevor Janis, Lemmy 101, Anthropophoja, Saren42, Chronic to Hempob, The Great Houdini, Bowen Jenny, Catherine, Radical Maniac, Ramon Acosta, J. Fraser Cartwright, Jimmy Bignuts, Violent Orchard, Sophie Baby, Political Puppy, Andreas Chiringuito, Zach Christensen, Yopi, Josh Mickelson, Todd Buckingham, Todd Lajeunesse, Constance Joyce Lacheris. We raise our glass of mead and we salute you.